pay for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender faith. It's like a father never pursue embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer. I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside. I can't sit here quiet. You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you quiet from the cold dead chest. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, lighter than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror. They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they quiet from the cold dead chest. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, lighter than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, lighter than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
I'm Joe Villano, and I approve this message.
My fellow Americans, it looks like some things have changed. Are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents?
You want an abortion? Get one!
Younger parents aren't sure that an appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
When I drive into a neighborhood and there are American flags, it's a message of white supremacy.
I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result in an erosion of the American spirit.
We need to completely dismantle the police department.
If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is free, and freedom is special and rare. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise. As long as we remember our first principle and believe in ourselves, the future will always be ours. Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with three little words: we the people. We the people are free.
Best if I take the mute button off. Good evening, everyone. I am glad you are here. I hope you liked our final ad of the campaign season. That is going to be the last new one of the campaign season. I think it kind of brings things home into, what kind of state and country do we want? And if everyone remembers, first time I ever played that, and I thank the good people over at We the People Wine who actually created that ad. It was we took part of it. Thanking them for letting us use it. because I think that's pretty awesome. Because again, we're all trying to make sure that we live in a country that is free and I would say morally correct. I mean, that's how I would look at it. Making sure that we're looking out for everybody. And if we let our country fall into this kind of society that we're trying to separate each other, we're trying to divide each other, which I believe that liberals desperately want. And in some cases, you know, your far right wants to also. But yeah, sorry, I had to turn up the microphone levels there. That should be much better now. I don't want to put it up too high. Now, for some reason, my board's been acting a little funny when it goes to switching back and forth. But for those of you who are new to the program, I am Joe Valiant. I am your host and your guiding light, bringing you through all the craziness going on in our world today. You know, we have a lot to talk about today. In case nobody saw it, the Civilian Review Board met for their first time on Wednesday. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to play a past interview from last April with the Deputy Mayor, Mike Cardona. Because I think it's important because we called a lot of this stuff. And listen, I hate to sit there and pat myself on the back. Listen, I know liberals better than they know themselves. It's just true. I study these people. I see what they do. I see how they act. They're very, very predictable. And I called this a year and a half ago when we originally did this interview on what they were going to try to do. And hell, first meeting out the gate, they're going to do exactly what we said we didn't want them to do, 8 months ago. And I told you, you never want to give a liberal an inch. You cannot give them an inch because if you let their foot in the door, they're going to blow it up. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what Mr. Cardona said to in the first meeting of the Civilian Review Board. And I am glad that Mayor Scarpati quickly nipped it in the ass and said, no, this isn't what your job is. It's not to just start to crawl, then walk, then run. Because I said it. When they first did it, this is not their end game. Their end game is the same end game any liberal has. It's complete control. Civilian control. That is the end game. And anyone who thinks that the state government doesn't want to do the same thing, you're crazy. That's why they have their IG now. This is craziness. And the amount of money this thing's going to cost. But let's get through the rest of the formalities first. This show only works best when you are involved in it. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610 or email straighttalkjv@gmail.com. We're going to try to get to some email questions today if we can. But I think this past interview with Deputy Mayor Cardona, I think is important that we listen to some of it. Because, again, we were calling most of this crap out over a year ago. And we were all told, no, you're being paranoid. It's not the perception. It's not the reality of what we're trying to do. It's your perception. Well, apparently our perception was the reality. And they were just straight up lying to us. But we already knew that. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610. And of course, guys, 1 full week of campaigning until election time. 1 full week left. 9 days. We're in single digits. It is imperative that shows like tonight's gets out to everybody. Because we know what the city said to us. We know what the council wanted to do. And the smoke, they were blowing up our asses. And now they're finally letting truth be told what they really are going to do. And it is nothing that people, even people that were for, even for people that were for the CRB, who said, oh, well, it's just use of force, just use of force. And we were trying to tell them that's not what they want. That's just the beginning point. Just like in the debate when we were talking about education. You let them an inch in on sex education in K through 5, it blows up from there. I said, and then when we were talking about inclusive and diversity, you have to be very, very careful because they have hidden agendas and they use the most common things to try to get consensus to sit there and say, no, we're not trying to do that. Come on. We don't want to indoctrinate your kids. That's just silliness. Until they get their foot in the door and then they blow it all up. And it's sex ed there, teaching K through 5 gender identities. And boys can be girls, girls can be boys. It's all based on your perception, which is false. This is the liberal, this is what they do. This is what they do. And I don't know how many times the public is going to get fooled into this. You know what it is? Because the public's just not paying attention. They don't want to pay attention. That's just the facts. They just don't want to pay attention to it. They try to stay within their own bubble. But you got to pay attention to it. If you care about your city, your state, or your country, you must. You must. Or you're going to let them destroy this country, destroy this state, and definitely destroy this city. You know, during the interview we talked about with Deputy Mayor Cardona, I was asking, what kind of perception are you trying to put out there of Meriden? Because Sonia Jelks, the majority leader, has basically called everybody racist. They called our police racist. They say we have use of force abuses going on in the city of Meriden. We don't. It has never been the case. These are the backdrops we're going against, and these are the things we talked about, and then we're going to listen to the things they said, and then more importantly, we're going to talk about the things they actually are going to do. It is crazy. It's predictable, though. It's predictable because, again, I know liberals, and I know what they're going to do before they do it. The problem is, can we get to enough people to fight back against it? But let's dig right in because, like I said, obviously this finished formalities here. I see it's already running. But as always, since we are running for office, this show, even though we do not pay for it or receive money for it, it is paid for by the Villano for State Senate campaign. And Josh Borkstra is the greatest treasurer of all time, and he is ours. So we thank him every day for the things he does. And it is a strenuous job, and it is time-consuming. So again, I thank him. And of course, all comments are approved by myself, probably because I'm giving them. So how can I not agree with them? And again, at least for me, at least we're truthful. If we want something done in this city or we want something to change, at least we're truthful here. At least we're truthful. We're not trying to backdoor you. I've been very clear on everything I want to do, which includes fixing some of the police accountability bill. There's no secret about that. I want to make sure our kids are protected in school. I want to make sure mental health is taken care of in our schools in an appropriate way, having the parents involved. That's something my opponent and most Democrats cannot say. They want to make sure they could do it without their parents even knowing, which I think is the craziest thing of all. So, as I talked about in the beginning of the show, Meriden Board convenes first organizational meeting. And so that was the Civilian Review Board can begin to deliberate on complaints regarding the police use of force. Its members must undergo 40 hours of training, which again is ridiculous. 40 hours of training. We talked about that with Mayor Cardona. And again, he said this wasn't going to cost us anything. He said this wasn't going to cost us anything. We know that is factually incorrect. It is going to cost the city. It's going to cost the city for training and for personnel. So that threw that right out the window. Their first promise to us, this isn't going to cost the city taxpayer anything. Well, that's the second thing they lied about. First, they said it was going to be diverse and inclusive. They love those words. But yet, look at what they got. One, look at what they had on the Police Use of Force Committee. And then they didn't make the CRB that much better. They did end up, because of pressure from us, they did end up removing one member and putting a We the People member in there with April from Tom's Place in South Meriden. So we did get something at least. Because other than that, we had no representation anywhere on that board. And again, to me, let me just make for the record, it's a sham. The CRB is a waste of everybody's time and everybody's money. We have a public safety committee who is more than capable of handling the small, minute amount of police use of force complaints, which again, we had 2. Both of them were withdrawn by the person giving them. Because again, each and every police officer wears a body camera in the city of Meriden. And if you look from 2017-18 to today, you see them drastically go down to almost non-existent. And I agree with the mayor. I agree with the mayor when he said on this program that even when he was chair of the Public Safety Committee, they could have done everything that this committee is doing by themselves. And listen, that's what you get elected for. That's what you run for office for. Not so you can pawn off all your work and duties to the public. Again, the city council loves to have a patsy. They love to push blame to other people and take credit for everything else. When they went to a ceremony of mayor, everything that's bad that happens, everybody goes right to the mayor. Oh, look what he's doing. It's not him. And we've said that many times on this show. It's not him. It's your council. When we talk about all the good things that happen, city council wants to take credit for everything. It's just craziness. But again, so now this team here, on its surface, like they told us back in the creation of it, well, this board is strictly for, let me just read their actual purpose. City officials reminded review board members that the body of scope of authority is limited to the review of citizens' complaints related to police use of force, and that the board's findings are deemed advisory. The board, when a use of force complaint is received, is tasked with reviewing the police department's completed internal affairs division investigation of those complaints to determine the thoroughness, completeness, accuracy, and objectivity of those investigations. So that is their temporary scope. But when we get a little farther into the story, you'll hear from Deputy Mayor Cardona, that's not the case. That's not what their end game is. Let me go. And they have 60 days to do it from the day they get it. So, and let me just finish up their scope here. before I jump into Cardona's comments. In addition to reviewing complaints, when they are received, the board is also tasked with making annual recommendations to the city council, which, again, is an issue there because our city council is far leftist and this board is far leftist. Such recommendations include potential amendments to the board's bylaws. Remember that. We talked about that when they first did it. Include potential amending to the bylaws. That means they could give themselves more power, and the city council can do it without anybody else knowing about it unless you're paying attention. It's almost like back when we had the referendum. And they said, oh, yeah, we got to listen to the people because they voted. We got to make it look like we care. And they made the cuts. And then less than 6 months later, all those cuts and then some were added back to the budget. That's basically what they're going to do here. The same procedure is what they're going to do here. They're going to start as, use of force only. And then I got to imagine a year from now, they're going to be like, well, we're not really doing anything. But we're going to follow what other states are doing, and we want to make these changes, and we want to give ourselves this much power. Or since we're not doing anything here, we should start looking at other avenues of police complaints. So it'll morph into something more. Again, it'll morph until they have complete control of the police department, which is the ultimate end game. Even though they won't tell us that, but they will tell us that. Let's see. Such recommendations as board's bylaws, recommendations related to the board's core functions, and ensuing policy recommendations to the city's chief of police according to city ordinance. That ordinance also states the board shall file annual reports to the city council's public safety committee. Now, why are they doing anything to the public safety committee? If they have to do an annual report to the public safety committee, what the hell is this board used for? Why don't the public safety just do it and they sit there and give recommendations to themselves and to their colleagues that have been elected to city office? So they're telling you already you're adding layers of bureaucracy. For what? Why is the public safety committee even getting involved in this? If they say they don't have the time for it, what the hell are they getting involved for? I guess the CRB should give direct recommendations just to the city council. I don't see why Deputy Mayor Cardona, who's chair of the Public Safety Committee, would want anything to do with this. So it's just ridiculous. It's just, again, going around in circles. With those reports, including summaries of all complaints reviewed by the board within that year, along with written policy recommendations. Again, and what if they have nothing? What if they have absolutely no use of force complaints? What are they going to write an annual report on? How great our police department is? Well, they're not going to say that. Half of them on the board hate the police department. And I don't use that word lightly. Half on the board hate the police department and would love to see it dismantled and would love to see it morphed into something with social workers instead of police officers. And they have some crazy far leftists on there. So during elected officials' discussion about possible recommendation to revise the board's scope of view, some disagreement emerged. No crap. You think? All right, they haven't even gotten through their first meeting yet. They haven't even got through their first meeting yet. And Cardona told board members that while there are several categories of citizens' complaints regarding the police department, the board's purview is solely limited to those related to use of force. But we go on. Cardona said part of that was to ensure the body's responsibilities are manageable, a lesson learned from the establishment of similar boards in other municipalities. Now, if anybody remembers when Michael Cardona was here, he mentioned Farmington, Old Saybrook, Clinton, Simsbury, that they all had police commissions. And what he failed to mention, again, because we had to go review it, all of those were done by the state government turning around saying, you have to have these because you have racial biases in your city. Therefore, you have to have a civilian review board. That's why they had them. It wasn't because they wanted them. But I would say this on top of that. At least the ones in other towns at least are diverse with opinions from both sides of the aisle, which helps get buy-in. Something that we talked about with him over a year ago. You cannot expect Republicans or conservatives to have buy-in to this when you exclude us from the process. You can't. We're not going to buy into it. Who would? They wouldn't want us. They wouldn't buy into anything we wanted if we cut them out. They only love diversity and inclusion when it benefits them. When it doesn't benefit them, or it might cause an issue for their agenda, they are totally for ostracizing another side. And they love to do it on a daily basis here in the city. Because this city is run by far leftists. Our state is run by far leftists. My opponent is a far leftist. And we have an election in 9 days that is going to set the tone for Hartford on which direction we want to go. And for the country. That's why it's extremely important that everybody listens to this show. So he wants to take lessons learned from other established boards and wants the responsibilities to be manageable. Here's the comment that I think took the mayor a little bit by surprise. These committees took on too much too fast, Cardona said. What we wanted, the majority of the council wanted, was for this board to start slowly and incrementally increase what their roles and responsibilities are. It's something, again, when we said you give them an inch, they're going to take a yard. So these committees took on too much too fast. The majority of the council wanted. A majority of this city council wanted this board to start slowly and incrementally increase. They didn't say that to us. They didn't say that to you, the public. They did not say that when they created this. But all along, this was the plan. Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said was their plan all along. And they knew it back then. They refused to disclose that to you because they knew their agenda was not going to fly in the city of Meriden. And that statement needs to get out to everybody. Cardona said if the board decides its role should be to expand to other complaint topics, it would be at the board's discretion to recommend that expansion to the city council. Well, no crap. Like I said, there's no use of force complaints issue in this city. They can be sitting there bored. So of course they're going to say, well, we're not doing anything else. Let's look at other things. And that will grow even more. And next thing you know, they'll have some subpoena power. And then they'll have investigative power. And next thing you know, it's blown up into a socialist utopia that they eventually want, where they have complete control of the police department. Really, it's craziness. Why they weren't up front with the people, we know why they weren't. Because the public would never go for it. So they're going to give recommendations themselves. So again, this is another reason why the Public Safety Committee could not handle this. This is another reason why liberals and the Democrats on the city council did not want the Public Safety Committee doing this, because they can't fall on the sword. They can't. They won't. So, because now they're going to have someone to, again, just like they use the mayor as a shield for all the crap that they do and is bad and people freak out about, they're doing the same thing here. They're going to be like, well, listen, we didn't recommend this. We didn't recommend this. The board recommended it. They find a need. They find a need for it. So therefore, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. And we want to make sure that this board is tasked with keeping our public safe. Or they love it. Well, we need to do something before something happens, which they still have not been able to say what that is. Because it can't be a police shooting. The civilian review boards don't take care of police shootings. That's the state's attorney's office. So what is this thing that they keep talking about that could happen? Or these string of things that could happen that would make a civilian review board necessary? They still cannot answer that question. The only thing civilian review boards have been known to do is handcuff our police department with change of policies. Now, again, this is a review only. This is a review only board for now. For now. It will not stay that way. They have already said it here. They don't want it to stay that way. So then Scarpati, the mayor, spoke up. Scarpati told board members they should they decide the board needs to review more than just use of force, it is still the city council that has the discretion to determine whether or not to implement that recommendation. Of course they're going to. I think he knows as much as anybody. Of course they are. Because I think even the mayor knows what the end game is. Scarpati referred back to the Use of Force Study Committee's previous deliberations, which had focused solely on use of force and had looked at policies and procedures within that realm. He described the focus on use of force complaints as very targeted. I don't believe that it was the purpose in the formation of this committee to do anything more than that, Scarpati said. I don't believe it was to start out slow and then begin to crawl, run, and sprint to the point where you are overseeing matters that we heard concerns about from both not only the officers internally, but from members of the public. Now, Mr. Mayor, I know, again, and this is where I have issues with the mayor, because these are your people. These are your people. These are the people that support you. These are the people that back you every year. These are the people you hang out with. These are the people you hang out with at the Doghouse, which is a liberal hangout, who just got over $150,000 of the taxpayers' money to renovate it. I don't see any other business getting that, because that's not what the money is there for. And you can sit there and say that is what the money is there for. It's not. It's there for one-time purchases and construction that benefits everybody. That's what it should be used for. But let me not get derailed there. That's for a whole nother night. So, Mr. Scarpati, you know, and I think you've always known what their end game was. And I'm glad you called them out. But that was their intent, to start out slow. Scarpati noted that the board's establishment had been a controversial topic and was hotly contested. Absolutely. Because again, I think even he knew what they were really trying to do. And if you look at all their past things that they've passed, whether it's the racism is a public health crisis, which again, don't get me started on that. In fact, though not mentioned during Wednesday's meeting, the review board was only established after the council nearly overrode a mayoral veto to do so. Scarpati said he believes the current limited scope of authority was intentional, and he urged the board to be cautious in its reports. They don't care what you have to say, Mr. Mayor. They don't. They could care less. They got what they wanted. They got their foot in the door. The Use of Force Committee that vetted and recommended the formation of this was solely for use of force matters that impacted our community to the greatest extent, which they don't even come close to impacting our city at all. At all. And obviously, we've seen detrimental impact throughout the nation that we never want to see happen here in Meriden. That was their sole purpose. Listen, they used George Floyd to push their radical agenda. Councilwoman Jelks, the NAACP, and all the little social justice warriors, they used that as fuel to make things like this. To pass legislation and resolutions, racism is a public health crisis. They used all these national trends. And when Mayor Cardona sat here and talked with us on this show, he said, "Oh, well, it was a national study done." And we talked about that national study from the University of Michigan, where if a police officer arrived at a car accident and there was a deceased member, it was a police involved because the police were there. Well, of course they are. They're there for every accident. They're there for every death. So of course it's going to be one of the leading causes. Because not a single honest stat. Remember, they had to add 6 different categories to get that into the top 10. That wasn't even in the top 50 to 100 of reasons for black deaths in America. It wasn't even near the top. But they used a silly survey done by the University of Michigan to further their agenda and to further the false narrative that we have a racism problem here in the city of Meriden, that we have a use of force problem in the city of Meriden. And they still do it today. They still push that narrative today. And I'm hoping that people are seeing right through the nonsense. Cardona maintained that the language around recommendations was specific. As the mayor stated, it's a recommendation from the board to the council. The council is going to have to respond to what as they see fit. Listen, unless we make the noise and we come out harsh against it, which still probably won't matter, the council is going to do whatever these people want because, again, these are all their buddies. These are their pals. They're similar-minded. I don't see anyone on that board that's really going to be a voice of reason. I mean, April will probably be the closest thing we get as a voice of reason on this board. And I hope and pray that she could fight back against the nonsense that they're going to be spewing at her. But I believe, I don't know April all that well. So, I mean, I guess time will tell. Can she handle the onslaught of nonsense coming from members of this board? I hope she is a tough cookie. She's going to need to be. She's going to need to be. And Chief Rosado, in response to board members' questions, described the annual volume of complaints that the police officer received as a very low number when compared to the overall calls of service, which they get 48,000 a year. And they receive out of 48,000. Think about that. 48,000 service requests per year. And they've had 2 use of force complaints in a given year. And like I said, those 2 were withdrawn from the complainants themselves. Rosado impressed upon members it's important to do the right thing here, adding that the Meriden police personnel put their lives on the line. They do a lot of great things. They don't care, Chief. They don't care. They've proven that time and time again. Maybe some on this board may care a little bit, but those on the city council that implemented all this nonsense, they don't care. They don't care for a second. What a fine job you guys do. The men and women of our Meriden Police Department do a terrific job. And again, I don't go on opinions or emotions. That's a fact. Those are statistically factual that our Meriden Police Department does an outstanding job. It can be impactful. You can hurt them. It can hurt the agency by not doing the right thing here. And morale can go down. I don't know how morale's not down now. That just shows you the dedication that the Meriden police officers have to this city, and that every man and woman that puts on that uniform, the dedication they have to each and every citizen here to do the right thing to protect them. Even when the leadership is attacking them and going after them constantly, they still go out there and do the job to the best of their ability every day. And I know I talked about it when I met with the state police. And the state trooper turned around to me and says, it's not about the people. We don't have an issue with that. Listen, people that are disrespectful to us and just yell at us and everything else, they don't care about that. They know that's part of the job. But what really bothers them is that those that are supposed to have their back, i.e., the leadership of the cities and states, they no longer have their back. And that is what kills morale at police departments, state police departments, any agents, any federal agency, any law enforcement agency. When those that are supposed to have your back no longer do, and they see you as an enemy and the victim and the criminals as victims, how can morale not go down? How can morale not go down? Criminals are now the victims. And police officers, it's almost like teachers. You know, back in the day, if I ever had a teacher call my house, it was going to be my ass. But now, not my kid. Not my kid. Now it's the teacher's fault. Another reason why it's hard to find teachers right now. We've told society that they could be unruly, disrespectful, and they can ignore the laws that they seem that they don't, that the ones that they deem fit that they don't have to follow. And that's why we have all the issues we have going on in our city, state, and country today. It's why we have juveniles stealing cars on a daily basis. Why you have juveniles running from police and being let right back out again. Here you go. Go back to your parents. Have a nice day. We'll see you in a couple hours, maybe a day. And we'll do it all over again. It's absolutely crazy to me. Why anyone in this city is allowing this to happen? I just don't know. It just blows my mind. It really does. How did we get to this point? You know, Democrats love to say, never let a crisis go to waste. Rahm Emanuel said that back in Chicago. Never let a crisis go to waste to further your agenda. And our city officials here in Meriden did not waste any time using the George Floyd incident, which was tragic and wrong, to their advantage, to try to shame people, into believing that we have issues here. And I am still to this day cannot get a single liberal or a Democrat on the city council to tell me where our racism problem is and where our use of force problem is and what series of events would need to happen to put a CRB together. They have not answered any of those questions because they don't have answers for those questions. It's all to further a political agenda. And we, as voters and citizens of this city, state, and country, have allowed it to happen. And it must be stopped. That's why that ad is my favorite. Because it is not what America is. We should not be divided based on race and ethnicity or religion. We are all in this together. We care about our freedoms. We care about our police officers. We care about our military. We care about our neighbors. But some in the woke movement, in the cancel culture movement, who hate this country, and I hate to say that, they do. They hate as it was founded. Whether we were talking about when they were knocking down statues, when they were going after police officers, when they were going after everybody. They just don't like the way we were founded. They don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. That's the whole point. This whole thing, this whole charade was meant for nothing else other than getting control, to getting their foot in the door of controlling what our police do. Listen, the police accountability bill did the same thing, just in a different way. You know, like we talked about during the debate. Why are we having record overdoses? Well, one, the economy sucks. When the economy sucks, it's just naturally, again, every statistic shows, when you have a dying economy, you have drug use because you have higher unemployment and so forth. So, again, this stuff just irritates me to no end. Again, but we have 9 days left till Election Day. 9 days before we all get out there and make that decision on which direction we want our state to go. Do we want to follow what Meriden doing? I sure hope not. I sure hope not. But it's going to take each and every one of us to make sure that we get out there and vote, and make sure our friends get out there and vote, our families get out there and vote. Because if we don't win, this is going across the board. Everything that we've been talking about for months is going to be implemented without any fear, because they know, crap, if we got this through, if we got this through, they ain't coming. They ain't stopping us. They ain't stopping us. No one's stopping us. If people lost that much hope that we could change things, this state and this country is doomed. And possibly even our city. But we each have the power to help fix it. We each have the power to change course, and that's with our vote. And that's what we get to do on November 8th. And again, that's why everybody needs to make sure they share this show and share your opinions on what you see happening. Again, I hate the fact that I'm right so many times around here when it comes to liberals. I hate it. Because when it does happen, it's like, well, crap. What did I do wrong that I didn't get this message out there enough to stop it? And I take personal responsibility for it. What did I not do? What else could I have done that would have stopped this? Especially since we knew where I knew where it was going. So I'm hoping and praying that there are enough people who still love this city, state, and country that we're not going to let it go down this path any further. And we're going to change course because they've already proven that these policies are disastrous for not only our economy, but for our morale as a country. Trying to divide the public is all they're trying to do. And I'm going to say it here in the city. The Democrats on the city council are doing nothing more but trying to divide the people of this city. And people like my opponent are doing nothing but try to divide us in the state. I won't allow that to happen. I will not allow that to happen. Because I believe there's still more of us that are in the middle and not a far leftist like my opponent. And hey, I'll be the first. I'm not far on the right. I'm in the middle. Because I know it takes common ground. And those on the far left, those on the far right are never going to be able to work together. Which is why I have so many Democrats that support us. Which is why a lot of Democrats watch this show. Which is why a lot of Democrats have Volano for State Senate signs on their front lawn. Because we can respectfully disagree with each other. And not care about parties. And again, that's why I think that's why the Independent Party endorsed us. Because they know. Listen, there are plenty of Republicans out there that do not like me. Because I don't follow the party line. Because I think that's dangerous. I like to think for myself and do what's the best that I believe is best for everybody in the district. And I'll continue to do that. That's why it's called Straight Talk here. Republicans aren't always right. Democrats aren't always wrong. And I think like I was talking with Mr. Dominello, the former mayor and deputy mayor, the majority leader, that 90% of what happens around this city, in this state, in this country, Republicans and Democrats pretty much agree on. It's that 10% that gets contentious. And I think we all still want the right outcome, the same outcome, with the which I would hope they would want the same outcome as for a prosperous America, state and city. But I think we just have different ways of getting there. And I think that's what really separates a conservative from a liberal. Liberals like big government and like to do everything with control of the people, which is why I like big government. You know, if you look at what my opponent said during the debate, she wants to socialize childcare now. She wants to socialize hospitals. She wants to socialize just the schools, no more charter schools and school choice. Screw that. Only what the state and the cities want. She wants to do all these things. She wants to tax nonprofits. Really, she wants to get rid of nonprofits because, as she said during the debate, no, we could use that money for other things. Who the hell are you? It's not your money. So she's like I said, she's your typical big government tax and spend liberal. And everything she talked about was, we need to invest in this. We need to invest in that. That means spending your money. When liberals use the word invest, it means use your money. Higher taxes. That's what it means. Because the state's broke. Everyone, like I said, they use these slick words, like they try to use these phrases, record surplus, record tax cuts. Listen, that money's gone in 2 years, and we're facing a deficit already. But they won't tell you that because they know they're the cause of it. And not to the fact that any issues that they do have in regards to, as they would deem inequities on behalf of any group, they've owned this state for 30 plus years. Whose fault is it? So to all my minority friends out there, when you hear systemic racism and you hear inclusive and diversity, and we haven't been very diverse, ask yourself this question. Who the hell has been running this organization? Who's been running this city, this state? I won't say country because the Republicans have had it recently. But if you have, if Democrats really believe and liberals really believe that in our city we have racist policies, they put them there. They put them there. Democrats put them there. If people like my opponent believe that there are inequities in our state government, who put them there? Democrats put them there. Democrats put them there. Not Republicans. So every minority, before you go out and vote, you need to ask yourself, are you better off? Are you better off doing the same thing over and over and over again? And be willing to have the same outcome as you've had for the last 30 years? To me, that's called insanity. Or is it time to try a new direction? For my minority constituents and voters out there, what do you have to lose at this point? What do you have to lose by voting a different way? You already know you're going to get shafted voting for Democrats. You have for the last 30 years. What do you risk by trying a different route? And like I said, people could hate the personality of Donald Trump, but as a minority, you had record unemployment. You had wages on the rise in the Black and Hispanic communities. You've had great things happening. And now look what you have. All I ask you is, are you better off with Democrats? I think no. No. In fact, facts show that you're not better off. So are we in this state finally going to change direction and say, do you know what do we have to lose? What else do we have to lose? Let's bring this city, this state, and this country back to when we were having peace throughout the world. Again, love or hate Donald Trump. He's the first president in modern history not to have a war going on or not get us into a war. He didn't buy in and need to really bomb anybody other than defeating ISIS, which he did in the first year. We had world peace. You had Egypt, United Emirates, making peace treaties with Israel. And like I said last time, Israel moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Listen, both sides of the aisle have been talking about that for decades. Donald Trump did it within 2 years. Love him or hate him. The proof's in the pudding. We had our economy booming. Unemployment at record lows. Across the board, wage increases, no matter what nationality you were. And we had energy independence, which means gas and oil and diesel were low. Propane, natural gas, all at lows. Love or hate his personality. Those are true Republican values. That's what Republicans stand for. Self-sufficient. We shouldn't have to go across the sea overseas to do anything. We should be building here at home by getting incentives to businesses to do that. Which is why he put tariffs on Chinese goods, because they manipulate their currency and it lowers and it brings down the prices to outcompete with American companies. But American companies could do the same quality of work, or actually better quality of work. Republican values of what we want to see in our country and policy-wise, you've seen in action from 2020 or 2016 to 2020. You've seen Republican policies in action and what it did for this country. And now you're seeing what liberal policies do for a country. And you tell me which one you'd rather be in. And I'm asking you to think about that on a state level. People like myself will get up there and bring financial stability, economic growth to our state while protecting our families, while protecting our police officers that go out there and do the most dangerous job of all. I ask each and every one of you to pass along this episode and make sure that everybody listens to it that lives in this district. And make sure that people, even in our inner cities, are watching this program. Because I want them to hear that, and and again, if you do listen to this, I want you to respond to me. I want you to email me. What is most concerning to you? And I look forward to that, because next week I'm going to be down in the inner districts, because I want to talk with you guys personally. And I thank all those that have talked with us already. We have a plan for success when we get up to Hartford. We have a plan for success of easing the burden of inflation on our families and our citizens. We have a plan ready to help protect our police officers and to protect our law-abiding citizens. And to finally put real legislation together to tackle juvenile crime. I'm ready to go on day one. And I won't let up. My opponent can't say the same. The only thing she's ready for is to go up there and spend your money. With that said, I can't believe that took a whole hour. I always have a stack of stuff here that I never get to. And of course, I still have emails that we're just not going to get to today. So we'll pick that up again on Thursday. 9 days left. Again, when this show ends, please share this on your page. Please get this out to everybody you possibly can. Because this, what we do in the last 9 days is going to dictate what kind of city, state, and country we live in. I know that seems drastic, but it's true. So until next time, guys, I love each and every one of you. I look forward to us doing some great things up in Hartford. And as I tell every group that I meet with, I tell every group this, we can't just sit here and talk about it. Once we win on November 8th, November 9th, the work actually begins. And every group that we met with that said they had problems and they had solutions better be working on those solutions. Because we are going up there day one. Day one. With ideas and solutions for these problems. We're going up there day one ready to go. And you're going to be a big part of making that happen. Each and every one of you. Until next time, like I said, I love you. God bless you. And of course, as always, God bless this amazing country of ours. Until next time, I will see you on Thursday.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender faith. It's like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak and believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening, sleeping? And the shadows could be making yes